This video, we're taking a deep dive into the leadership mindset. We're going to find out the key characteristics that make great leaders who they are. We're going to take you right into the mind of great leaders. What characteristics do they exhibit that makes them so special? And what can we do to bring that to our organizations? How do great leaders stay true to their mission? How do they crave feedback? How do they drive their teams onwards? How they get the best out of people? Why do people follow these leaders? What is it in their mindset, in their character that makes us want to follow these people? What is it with leaders that allows them to get more out of people? How do great leaders create such an environment for success? A safe place to fail, a place where people can empower themselves, people can deliver, people can enjoy work, and people can be passionate and keep the stress levels down. Leaders have got something in their mindset that makes them able to create this environment. And we're going to explore tips related to emotional intelligence, organisation, and people empowerment. I've always wondered what makes a great leader, what makes them special. Are they some sort of divine force, or have they really strived to work and learn the skills required to lead? If you ask most managers if they think they're leaders, I think you'll probably get a lot of yes answers. And that's definitely not the case. Just in the same way that over 80% of people think they're above average drivers or have a great sense of humour, well, you're going to get a lot of false positives with that leadership question as well. Working for an inspirational leader is an amazing experience. It's often noted that people join companies, but they leave managers. And importantly, being a leader in an organisation is not necessarily related to seniority or position in an organisation. I've worked with many people at the top of big organisations who are most definitely not leaders and get things done by exerting their authority over others. And on the flip side, there are people who are at the very bottom of organisations who are most definitely leaders and are just not in a position where they have that authority to perhaps affect the change that they need to, but they are certainly demonstrating many of the characteristics that make great leaders. If you've got a great leader at your organisation, or even really poor leaders, then do let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to hear your experiences. So sign number one of being a great leader is you have a mission. True leaders have a mission that they're working towards. They have a vision, they have a desire, they have an end outcome, somewhere they want to get to. Everything leaders do is driven by their mission. It's their overarching goal. This means all their hard work has a point, all their hard work has an end goal. Being a leader is extremely hard. If there's no point to your work, then it's ultimately fruitless. So having that mission in mind, that end goal, is what keeps leaders driven and motivated and on track to achieve their goals. If you as a leader don't have that mission or end goal that you're working towards, well, ultimately it will get disheartening, and crucially your teams will see that. And if your teams see that you're not motivated or that you've got a lack of interest, well, that will reflect on them as well. So in order to keep your teams motivated, it's important that your end goal is what motivates you, and great leaders will always have that end mission in mind. Great leaders also have humility and are able to change that end goal based on differing circumstances, changing situations, the flow of the business or other circumstances. And if that end goal changes, or that mission changes, or suddenly becomes something that might not be beneficial to achieve, well, great leaders don't just blindly focus on that end goal and lead their team off a cliff. They evaluate based on changing circumstances and can change direction, change course to always achieve the best results. Many leaders are actually driven by their guiding principles more than an actual business objective or business outcome. Leaders might want to change the culture, they might want to change the empowerment of employees, they might want to change the direction or what a company stands for, rather than by profit-driven or business-driven goals. The next sign of being a great leader is you're completely honest even when truth hurts. Great leaders are accountable and they own their mistakes. Responsibilities, they own their successes and they own their failure. I guess we all think it's easy to be honest. I mean, if you weren't honest, you wouldn't really go very far at your job, you wouldn't build relationships, you wouldn't make friends. Well, most of the time, yes, it's very easy to be honest. It's very easy to honestly own up or say that your team or yourself or whoever in your organisation has achieved this great thing. But what about those situations when it all hits the fan? Everything's busted, the pressure is unbearable, senior management are all over you, you feel like you're going to crack. How easy then is it to be honest? In crisis situations, I've seen lots of people sweep problems under the carpet, or even worse, look for somebody else to pin the blame on. That's not honesty. Be able to put your hands up and admit liability in front of senior management, say, we messed this up, this is what we're going to do to fix it, this is what we're going to do to stop it happening again. To stand up in front of thousands of clients and say, we made a mess. That's real honesty, and that is difficult. What you'll see from great leaders is 100% honesty the whole time. Great leaders will be accountable for their mistakes. When they mess up, they take the accountability on their shoulders, they communicate with stakeholders, they admit liability, they admit responsibility, and they take the pain. Leaders take failure on the chin, admit accountability, and thrive to bounce back stronger. That's true honesty, and it's not easy. The next sign of a great leader is empathy. Great leaders have a fantastically empathetic response to their people. Great leaders can empathize incredibly well with employee problems, the problems of their team. This is a key characteristic of high emotional intelligence, and it's something you'll find in abundance in people in leadership positions. High emotional intelligence is one of the key enablers for people to move on in their careers, and one of the key blockers that you'll see in people who aren't moving on in their careers. To be able to empathize with an employee, to understand that the problems the employee is having may not necessarily be problems that you might find important as a leader, but to understand how the problems will impact the employee is a key characteristic. For example, a leader might not be an animal lover, and an employee might have a loved pet that they've just lost and be completely devastated by it. That might not necessarily trigger an emotional response in the leader themselves, but an empathetic leader will understand, will put themselves in the shoes, in the mind of that employee, and understand exactly what impact that has to their teams. Next up on the list of great leadership characteristics is feedback. Not just getting feedback, but to leaders, feedback becomes addictive. Of course, everybody is encouraged these days to get feedback on their performance. But great leaders turn getting feedback almost into an art form. They become almost obsessed by it. Leaders start regarding constructive feedback as a drug because they realize it's one of the best opportunities to improve. So leaders are looking for all avenues to get feedback, whether it's from people higher than them, from people in the lower in the organization, or outside the organization to them. They're always looking for a different perspective on what they're doing, a different set of eyes. Leaders look to escape the echo chamber of people all doing the same thing, all looking to work towards the same goal. Leaders look to take diverse perspectives, diverse opinions, and differing points of view, because those points of view can be incredibly useful in a feedback situation. And crucially, when leaders get the feedback, they don't just sit and admire it, or they don't just file it in a drawer somewhere. They look at the feedback, they work out a plan to attack it, they work out a plan to address it, they work out a plan to improve every single time. And here's another leadership characteristic. Great leaders know that they're not the source of all knowledge. Leaders regard themselves as conduits to getting the job done, to achieving the business goals. They don't regard themselves as the people who do it, even though many leaders may well know more than the people that they manage. Most leaders will regard themselves as the conduit, as the enabler, as the catalyst, rather than the expert themselves. Leaders devolve the subject matter expert roles to their teams and provide the framework and the support to allow those people to express themselves and deliver. And then crucially, when the results happen, leaders will step back from the limelight and allow their teams to take the praise, to take the plaudits of a job well done. By empowering people to express themselves, leaders can ensure that their teams contribute to their maximum natural level and also bring their best selves to work every time. This all helps to support the leadership mission. There is a caveat here. Leaders don't constantly defer their expertise level to other people, otherwise they'll begin to lose reputation. So leaders ensure that they get the credit at the right time, in the right way, and again, never at the expense of their team. And crucially, leaders will prove their worth at the right times. They'll make a difference when the chips are down, in the pressure situation, when everybody's watching, when a decision needs to be made and made quickly. That's when leaders will prove their worth and make the difference. Next on the list is awareness of self, awareness of others, awareness of situation. Leaders display extremely high levels of emotional intelligence when it comes to being aware of themselves, being aware of others, and being aware of the overall situation that they're in. Leaders are super in tune with themselves and with their teams. Awareness is a key component of emotional intelligence, and it's one of the most powerful tools in the leader's toolbox. This is a really big subject in itself, so I'm not going to dive into much detail here. Needless to say, there'll be more videos about this. Leaders make people feel safe. Creating a safe place to fail is an incredibly important aspect of being a good leader. Leaders have no problem with their teams failing. So long as their teams are experimenting, trying new things, expressing themselves, then that's good. Creating a safe place to fail for people is a critical part of a leader's job. When things go wrong, leaders don't look to cut people, they don't look to slap performance management schemes on people, they look to support, coach and help them get better. And when leaders make people feel safe, well, those people will give blood, sweat and tears to support the leader's mission. Creating a safe place to fail boosts innovation, it boosts engagement, it boosts morale, it lifts the bar completely for the whole team. I've worked in organisations where the slightest bad idea was ruthlessly punished and exposed, and what that did is it stifled innovation completely. Everybody stopped coming up with new ideas because, hey, what's the point? There's too much of a risk of this idea not working and me being highlighted as somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. And I've also worked at places where ideas are massively encouraged. If your idea doesn't work, so what? Go and do a different one. And that means that innovation flourishes. Great leaders look after their people, they foster innovation, they foster trust, they know that when an employee is struggling, that employee might need help. And they crucially provide that environment where an employee can raise their hand and say, hey, I need some help here. Great leaders don't look to get the most out of people, like wringing out a towel to squeeze as much performance as you possibly can out of somebody. They look to help people be at their natural best. So here's what I want you to do now. Let me know in the comments if any of those tips have been really useful or you see those characteristics in great leaders that you work with. I'm always really interested to hear those amazing stories of inspirational leadership because it makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel fantastic that there are so many great leaders out there that are striving, working with people with high emotional intelligence, relating to people and building the frameworks for people to follow them on those journeys. I want rid of that dictatorial, old school, shouty manager that just tells you what to do, my way or the highway. I've had enough of that. We want people who empower. We want people who bring people on the journey with them. We want people we can follow. And the more people like you and I study leadership, preach leadership, and evangelize leadership, the closer we'll get to a situation where that type of leader is the rule, not the exception. There's loads more productivity tips at the Productivity Ace YouTube channel. So thanks very much for watching.